All right, Phil, let's go ahead and stay in the NFL with some unfortunate injury news. If you watched on Sunday, you are likely aware of the extent of the injuries suffered. Players like Saquon Barkley, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Bruce Irvin, Anthony Barr, and Cortland Sutton all saw their seasons ended mostly by knee injuries. Other big names like Christian McCaffrey, Drew Lock, and Jimmy Garoppolo are out multiple weeks with serious issues. So, Jay, what role do you think the shortened preseason had on these injuries, and which one seems most damaging to their team?
I think it's a little. It's hard to say how much the shortened preseason had with all these injuries. We got to remember, like some of these teams. Remember last year, like they're blowing off the preseason completely. I mean, they're just holding all the guys out anyway. So I don't know how much the like preseason games have an effect, but I don't know. Maybe like some of the you're not due to the coronavirus precautions. Maybe you're not training quite as hard. You're not doing the same level of activity to get ready for the season. Maybe that has something to do with all these injuries because it's this is something I can't remember seeing anything like this soon. Um, because a lot of these guys that you mentioned, and it even goes back to before week one started, when a guy like Von Miller is just all of a sudden out for the year. I mean, what a huge blow to the Denver Broncos. But if I had to pick one player that is his loss is most damaging, uh, particularly out of these guys who are out for the year, I think it's Saquon Barkley. The Giants are one of those teams that when you talk about a running back being the most important player pretty much on their team, I think Barkley fits that bill for the New York Giants. I mean, Daniel Jones is in his second year, and I know a lot of people were, they saw some promise in him last year, and maybe it ultimately turns out good after that. The sixth overall pick kind of caught everybody by surprise. Maybe Dave Gettleman knows what he's doing, but we'll see. I mean, and at some point, I guess this season it's going to be tough without Saquon Barkley. It's one of those things where we've talked about this. We've done talked about running back rankings, who we think is the best running back. Saquon Barkley is the most talented running back in football, and he's one of those guys that he's a threat to break one no matter where he is on the field. No matter how good or bad the offensive line is, if you can get him the ball in space, he can make things happen for you, and he can be a guy that can carry your offense. I mean, he's just electric. He's just electrifying out there, and it's a loss not only the Giants, loss to the entire NFL with him not being there. And the only hope the Giants had this year to be somewhat respectable as they continue through what seems to be this endless rebuild is if Saquon Barkley can carry you. And now he can't carry you. It's going to be Daniel Jones and whatever other assorted nonsense that they have. Namely, maybe Evan Ingram all of a sudden dominates everyone, but it doesn't look good because the Giants, I mean, without Saquon Barkley, they're simply not going to be very good. And then I would throw in the team that is being most devastated right now, the San Francisco 49ers are in a world of hurt. I mean, you talk about Super Bowl hangover. Well, they might want to all have a drink right now because, I mean, it is just ridiculous the amount of injuries they're suffering. Don't forget, not only all these guys we're talking about who recently injured, Debo Samuel, he was put on IR, I believe, early on in the season, so he's going to miss some time. Richard Sherman was put on IR after week one. And then you compound it. I mean, it's bad enough for those guys. But now Raheem Mostert, who, he's a big play threat, got an 80-yard touchdown on a toss play against the Jets this week. He's down with MCL sprain. We got Tevin Coleman also down. Oh, by the way, Matt Breida traded to Miami in the offseason. So now you're left with Jerick McKinnon, and he's a guy, he could go down any minute with his injury history. And then you talk about, you got a great defensive line. Well, it's not as good now. No Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa, a guy who we could be a defensive player of the year candidate. He's now gone. And you can't forget DeForest Buckner traded in the offseason. So, yeah, you thought you had 5 first-round picks. Now you got 2. Now you got Eric Armstead, and you got Javon Kinlaw, who's a rookie. So it is almost hard to imagine San Francisco surviving this. And Jimmy Garoppolo's out with a high ankle sprain. He is week to week, but even if he's able to let's just say he just misses one game, they've lost so much. And we look at Jimmy Garoppolo kind of with a jaded perspective because, we've seen some games where the running game and defense is so dominant that he didn't have to do anything. Well, he's going to have to do something now without all these pieces. So those are if I had to pick a player that is the most devastating loss to his team, it's Barkley. But which team is getting ravaged the most? It's the San Francisco 49ers, and they're going to struggle to overcome all this.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Jay though. Those are, Saquon Barkley, that hurts. And then the way Danny Dimes playing, oh yeah, he really hurt. But if I go individual player, I want to go quarterback, and that quarterback for me is going to be Drew Lock, and here's why. We was talking about teams that was going to take that step forward. Von Miller got hurt, but a lot of people say, hey, you know what? This might give Bradley Chubb a chance to show that he can be a guy because he was hurt last year, so we didn't get that chance to see it from him last year. So it might give us a chance this year. And the reason people felt that way because we seen how Drew Luck ended the year, and we also seen how Cortland Sutton ended the year. You think, okay, you got your young little duo going on, then you got Jerry Jeudy in the mix, and then Noah Fant, and so on and so on. So we're like, oh, and then we didn't even talk about the running back core, so this offense got a chance. And then Cortland Sutton get hurt before week 1, and now Drew Lock going to be out between 2 to 6 – Drew Lock, I'm sorry. He's going to be out between 2 to 6 weeks. And it's like, okay, well, so much for that experiment of having that young duo because now Jared Jeudy look like he's going to have Blake Bortles or Jeff Driscoll.
Please don't get me started.
Jeff Driscoll, he's still in the NFL. How the hell is Jeff Driscoll still in the NFL? Like,
he's got a big arm. I don't know.
Let me jump back in on that note because and it just hurts my soul. And that as San Francisco's had it bad, but if you had to pick a second place team that has been ravaged, it's Denver. Von Miller out for the year. Now Cortland Sutton out for the year. AJ Boye has already been in and out, and he's your best corner, and there's a big drop-off after him. Philip Lindsay's down right now, so much for your cool running back duo that you had. Obviously, Drew Lock's down. And Bradley Chubb is back in, but there's a question of, we talk about, no preseason and how much work did you do in the offseason. It could be a case that he's still trying to play his way back into shape because he hasn't had a huge impact so far. And Jerry Jeudy has also been a little nicked up so far too. So the Denver Broncos are in a world of hurt, and it doesn't appear right now that they're gonna survive and achieve what we thought they would have.
Yeah, you good, Cody?
Yeah, that's to me. It's kind of like a 1A, 1B thing, for the Broncos. One of the biggest things is, your schedule is not that kind. I mean, the Bucks, Pats, and Chiefs are 3 your next 5 games. I mean, you got to toss up with the Jets and the Dolphins, I guess you could say. But I mean, with these kind of injuries, I mean, would you even put the? I mean, this might be the Jets' first win. I mean, how bad can it get? I mean, you got Jeff Driscoll.
Not with Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah, I mean, surely Jeff Driscoll will take care of business, but that's rough. I mean, we had so many high expectations for this Broncos offense, and boy, those hits came hard and fast. So you got 2 rookies out there with whoever you got at quarterback. That's going to be hard to overcome overall. One guy that didn't get hit on, but it's probably worth mentioning, Christian McCaffrey out 4 to 6 weeks. Kind of the same thing with Saquon Barkley. I mean, that offense outside of Christian McCaffrey, what really is it? It's Teddy Bridgewater and friends, and Carolina 0-2 for the first 2 weeks, and not looking like that's going to be any better down the line. That's obviously a very tough division already, and then you're going to take out your best player for 4 weeks or longer. And those high ankle sprains are tricky. You can't come back too early because you can re-injure it, and then you're out for the whole season and forget about it. So there's some tough ones on this list. I think my single biggest player would probably be Nick Bosa, just because of, I mean, you talk about the season he had. I mean, I had him as Defensive Player of the Year, so there goes Saquon, there goes him, like that whole segment, just forget about it. But Nick Bosa, I mean, you could make the argument, even in the Super Bowl, after Patrick Mahomes, he had an argument second best player. I mean, he was camping in the backfield with s'mores and a 10. It was ridiculous. So that's hard because the San Francisco 49ers, with all the other injuries, are going to have to rely so much more on that defense than they were before. Jimmy G's out for a bit, and the rest of these dudes, all the running backs are out. It's going to be kind of hodgepodge for them. And now you're out to your best defensive lineman. That is devastating. As far as the preseason thing goes, I think that's a big deal. I really do. I think these guys need that game speed sort of time to get going. Your training camp was cut short, and remember, training camps were pretty much non-contact across the league. They weren't doing tackling and things like that. And I have a wild card theory. I might be completely talking out of my ass on this one, but do you guys think there's anything to say about potentially the grounds crews and these stadiums not really being fully prepared? I know the 49ers were saying the field conditions were pretty rough and, they were not happy with how the field felt. And I don't know if that was just an isolated thing. Maybe you just say it because you're mad. But do you think there's any kind of preparation issues with these stadiums, not having fans, not having people furloughed and laid off? Like, maybe that's something to do with it?
It's definitely an issue. You think about COVID then attack everything. Why would it not attack the NFL as well, right?
Right.
I do think it's an issue to answer your question. Yeah, most definitely.
I think it's definitely something worth considering. But I would also say, like, look, if we're going to play football, everything has to be on point. And if it's all about the health and safety of these players, that's just not COVID and making sure those guys don't get that. The field conditions, they got to be pristine. And these are, billion-dollar owners, billion-dollar franchises. Get the dudes back in there with, and manage these the playing surfaces so guys are safe. And I mean, guys are going to get hurt regardless, but we can mitigate. Let's at least have a safe playing surface and take care of the field conditions so guys just aren't, tearing ACLs because of a crappy field.
Right, and that's kind of what I think is you could just see it, right? Well, the stadium ain't making no money, so we got half the grounds crew here, and the grass company ain't in business right now. Their shipping's delayed. We got to get the grass sent by Pony Express. So that's been a thing through the whole season. I just hope that's not the case. But these are awfully suspicious injuries, ACLs and whatnot. Like, that's not just conditioning. Sometimes it's just bad place, bad time. So I don't know.